Alright, well, I'm going to talk about my experience in my rock and roll band and whether I view it as a success now at the point where I am in life. So basically, we started out in 2005. I was the co-founder of a band called The Spire's Embrace, and we started traveling and we started getting bigger and bigger and more exposure, and I had certain expectations for myself and for our band to see how far it would go, and I kind of felt like the success that I wanted was to be in a tour bus and be able to make a lot of money and make it a career. And now I found myself in a different spot in life, and it's kind of interesting to see whether I really view it as a success or not. And so many people want to be in a band, and so many people have that kind of dream and the vision. And it's something I'm humbled and was able to be a part of. And as a founding member, there was a lot of things that kind of struck a chord with me. And one thing I want to talk about is kind of the highs and lows you see with the band, to where when you're on the outside of things, you may see all the glamorous kind of things, the signing autographs and things like that, but there's a lot of things behind the scenes that go on too. So there's kind of three main points I want to hit on. One is being that I just mentioned, that on the outside you see all the glamorous kind of things in a band, but there's a lot of highs and lows, which is the second point, to where I'm going to talk about the things that you really don't see on the outside of the band. And the third point is where I'm at now, kind of to see whether I view it as a success or not. So I want to start off by saying that being in a band was great, and especially at first we started out, the music was great, creativity was great, and we were able to really kind of focus all of our energy, and we had a lot of unity in the band, and we got to travel, and all those things were really great. And then it kind of started expanding and expanding, and after 2 years after our first album, got us into a point where we were to release our second album. And that's kind of when things started shifting a little bit, and when things got a little more complicated. And that's kind of when things kind of took their toll, from going from all of our highs to some of the more lows, because a whole nother thing was introduced to the band, which was business. And we didn't have any management or support, so we had to kind of take everything in ourselves, and we had to manage the band, we had to create the music and everything, and that kind of set us up for a whole new sling of highs and lows. So basically some of the things we experienced, some of the negative things we experienced was just that we had to do everything. So we had to maintain the travel, we had to maintain all the radio calls and do everything. And it's hard to do all that and to keep creativity going and to really be able to stay optimistic about things. And one of the big things we went through as well was that we had regional success in Ohio with our first album, and now in our second album we were put in a spot where we could have achieved national success, which also brings in pressure and a little more expectation and things like that. Accompanied with all that was the fact that when you're in a band with 4 other dudes, it's kind of like being married. So you had personality traits, you had other issues, and all these things come into play, and that kind of brought a whole nother spectrum of highs and lows, because when you're doing things with a purpose and with passion, you get real close to guys, but at the same time you're in a van together for hours on end, or you're traveling across the country, and you can get a lot of bitterness and a lot of things like that when personalities are just different. So after the start of our second album, we had some member changes, and we had some not so good things go on, which really included the music of the band. I felt like musically we kind of took a toll with the management side of things, because creatively it was obvious our second album didn't reflect the creativity of the first album, because we were under so much more stress and pressure. So after the second album, after another 2 years of really non-stop travel and getting bigger and bigger, we were at the spot where we were able to make our third album, which I kind of felt like was going to be our make and break with our third album. So we were able to make that in 2010, 4 years after we got the band started. And this really, as I said, was kind of the make or break end all thing for me, because we were at the spot where we had achieved regional success, but we were going for national success now. Which put that much more pressure. So we traveled even more and more through 2010, and really got to a point where I think we kind of worked ourselves too hard, and the creativity was completely lost after that. And that had kind of shifted towards the end of the band, and at the end of 2010 I could really kind of tell that we were kind of taking a toll, and it wasn't going to pan out to what I thought was going to be the success of the band, which was to be a career and to be able to sell hundreds of millions of albums and be riding in a tour bus. So at the end of the band, I kind of realized things were slowing down and we weren't going to be traveling anymore. And it was really a hard time for me in my life, because my passion and all of my my heart was in this band that we had done for so many years, and now it's kind of coming to the end. I was kind of in a spot where I didn't know what I was going to do or whether I was going to have any more passion for anything. But I really believe that through faith and through a humble spirit and an attitude of learning, I was able to take all the experiences, all the highs and lows of the band, and kind of help make me who I am now in this transition period of going from one dream to going to another, which is now graphic design and a career in web design and things like that, which I was able to start through the last couple of years of the band. So it's pretty cool to see how I was able to do the band and have that passion, and that kind of opened doors to where I am at now. And so that's kind of the last point is you know, what I take those highs and lows, and do I consider it a success now? I really do. I honestly do, and I'm glad and I'm humbled to be a part of that, because I was able to take all those experiences, all those positive experiences, including networking and management and creativity, but I was also able to take all those low experiences, which is dealing with people and dealing with yourself when you're getting tired or when you're going through things like that, and it's kind of given me a good basis, a good foundation for me where I want to take my career now. So the third point was just how do I transition there? How do I take those experiences and mold myself into something positive? And after all that, I really do consider the band a success, and I'm glad of where I come from and the hard work that we did. So I do feel humbled to be a part of that group for what it was, and I think the lives we reached were well worth it, and kind of brings me to where I'm at now and starting a new career. So it's pretty cool to see, you know, what a dream can build into, even though my success, or my idea of success, was to be in a tour bus and selling millions of albums. Now, I think the success of that band was just the fact that we got to do something great and we got to reach out to people. So I consider it a success.